Hey everyone, Isabelle Fox here, and in today's lesson we are going to talk about sex work and dating. To tell or not to tell? The age-old question for a sex worker. What I want to share with you here is a really practical and step-by-step guide on how to go about managing dating as a sex worker. As always, it's really not my intention to tell you how to live or to tell you what is best for your life. What I want to do rather is to empower you with knowledge to make those decisions for yourself. And to do that, I share with you facts and experience gained from not just my own time in the industry, but that of many others. Knowledge is power, so hopefully after today, you will be better informed to decide how you want to handle this area of your life. Today's lesson is a really practical one. I'm going to give you a lot of step-by-step advice and how-tos that you can implement yourself right away. So here's what we are going to cover today. The pros and cons of disclosing you're a sex worker when dating, and the pros and cons of not disclosing it. How to go about telling someone you are a sex worker, the how, when, and the what. The self-limiting beliefs behind why you don't want to tell potential partners you're a sex worker, and also how to reprogram your brain and select new beliefs. And lastly, we'll talk about the do's and don'ts behind how to successfully keep it a secret should you decide not to disclose it. So let's begin with talking about the pros and cons of telling a partner you're a sex worker. First, the positives. You open the door to a relationship based on honesty and trust. You cannot have a relationship based on honesty and trust if you are continuously lying to your partner. When you choose to hide working from them, there's a whole web of lies that accompany it, and one lie turns into many. So don't kid yourself into thinking that you can have an honest, trustworthy relationship in every way except for just this one. To get trust and honesty, you must first be able to give it. To be totally honest with another human being is a challenge even without sex work being a part of the equation. However, nothing worth having is easy to attain. And when you decide that you'll settle for nothing less than total honesty and trust, you open the door to a relationship that is more satisfying, intimate, and rewarding than you ever imagined was possible. Select a partner who shares similar thoughts and values on your occupation. In my experience, the relationships that are most successful are the ones where two people are most compatible. So selecting a partner who has compatible thoughts about your job and compatible values is a great step toward having a successful relationship. Eliminate the multiple ethical conflicts that arise when lying about working. I'm going to address some hard truths here that many of us prefer not to face when choosing to keep what we do from a partner. Aside from the obvious ethical quandaries around truth and honesty, there are actually others to consider in this scenario, such as sexual health. If you're a sex worker, even when using the highest level of sexual protection, having multiple sexual partners puts you at a higher risk of STDs and illnesses. You have the right to choose for yourself whether or not you want to put yourself at risk, and your partner deserves the same choice. When you are honest with your partner about what you do, you allow them the opportunity to decide for themselves if they're willing to, by proxy, be at a higher level of risk too. And this is just one of multiple ethical quandaries. There are others like religious beliefs. Perhaps your partner has a religious basis for not wanting to date a sex worker, or beliefs around monogamy. Some people believe in one sexual partner at a time regardless of the circumstances. You wouldn't want someone taking your right to decide for yourself around any of these things away from you. When you tell potential partners you're a sex worker, you allow them the same respect to do so too. Avoid the constant fear and anxiety of being outed now or in the future. This is the kind of thing you really need to live through to truly understand. I've worked with many girls who have chosen to keep what they do from their partners, and this is the part that they hate most. The constant anxiety of worrying that their partner has found out at literally any time. And it seeps into every part of their lives. They're terrified of their partner borrowing their phone to send a text, worried every time they think their partner is upset with them because it might be work-related. Petrified every time they have a strange feeling in their vagina because it could be an STD and they don't know how to explain it to their partner. Scared to be seen going to a hotel or not in the place they said they would be. Quite simply, life is much better when you don't have to worry about any of these things. Have more flexibility at work. When your partner does know, assuming there aren't too many issues between you two about work, which does often happen, your ability to accept more work readily and go to out calls will be better because you will be able to coordinate your schedule with a partner who hopefully understands the nature of a sex worker's schedule and that it can be erratic and last minute. If you're an escort who does out calls, you'll be able to move around freely, and you'll also have less restriction with what clients you see. For instance, I've known girls to have partners who are part of a minority group of some kind, and therefore they won't see any clients who are also in that minority group for fear that it will get back to their partner too easily. You can make more money if you are able to avoid all these things. Now to the negatives, because just like in any area of life, with the positives also comes the negatives. The number of potential accepting partners is in the minority. It's true that the pool of potential partners will be narrowed down. I personally would argue here that quality of prospects beats quantity every time, and I would rather a small selection of like-minded potential partners rather than a large selection of people who have conflicting beliefs to mine. However, that being said, as an out and open sex worker to some degree in telling your partner, you will have less options. Give someone the power to out you. Cautious selection of information sharing is vitally necessary. The more people who know what you do, the more people who can reveal that information to people you wish didn't know. This is why selecting the right partner to tell is so important, and we'll also cover that today. If not truly accepted, problems will continue to arise in different forms throughout the relationship. Even when you're honest and open, and even when your partner knowingly chooses to date you, if they haven't truly accepted it, which again happens often, problems will continue to arise throughout the relationship. From my experience, this is what I've been through and seen many times, and it's the most challenging part of being honest about what you do with a partner. Pressure to leave the industry usually increases. Even when a partner knowingly goes forward with you, oftentimes that's with the hope that your job is temporary. Obviously, this is case by case dependent, but added pressure to leave your job and find a new one is common. Even though your partner may be accepting, people around them are generally not included in that. So concealing what you do is not totally eliminated. Just because your partner is okay with it doesn't mean that his friends and family are, or that you may even want his friends and family to know. So the whole double life situation isn't always avoided just because you decide to be honest with your partner. And lastly, oftentimes your partner will need additional emotional support to handle your job. If your partner falls into the larger category of, I'm dating you, but deep down still wish you weren't doing this, then they will need greater levels of emotional support during your relationship. This can seem unfair at times and also just be super draining. And time doesn't necessarily help it either. If your partner isn't willing to do the necessary work to try to overcome their issues with your job, then it will generally just get harder as problems bubble up and spill over time. Okay, now that you're informed about some of the possible pros and cons of telling a partner, let's talk about how to actually choose who to tell. Firstly, assess the level of risk associated to this particular person, i.e., is this person within your close social network? Do they know your family? If you've lived in Sydney, for instance, all your life, and you have a small group of friends whose friends and families all know each other, and you start dating one of them, the level of risk associated with this person is obviously much higher than the guy you met on Tinder who just moved here from another country. You're the only one who can decide how much risk you're willing to tolerate. However, if your biggest concern is making sure your family never finds out what you do, selecting a partner who doesn't already have close ties to your family is probably smart. 2. Does this person seem mentally stable and rational? This is a great question for any relationship, period. Yet time and time again, I see girls, and I have been one of them myself, who start dating men who are clearly irrational, troubled, and unstable. And yet they decide this person is a good candidate to test the sex worker concept with. I can tell you now, they're usually not. They're less likely to have the emotional stability and maturity you need to be understanding of your job. And they're even less likely to be respectful of the information if things go wrong between you. 3. Is this a potential ongoing actual relationship or a temporary hookup? Learn how to tell the difference for yourself and from their perspective. If you're a straight woman dating a straight man, this can be a little tricky to decipher given the whole men are from Mars and women are from Venus, and one of the greatest relationship dilemmas we have is knowing when a guy is serious or not. Firstly, if you yourself don't genuinely look at this guy and think you would like to get to know him as a long-term partner, then going down this path is probably more trouble than it's worth. Secondly, if you aren't certain of his intentions, then find out first before you do the big reveal. Now, I'm not a relationship coach or here to teach you how to communicate with potential dates, but there are many of them out there. Matthew Hussey is personally my favorite one. You can find him on YouTube. So educate yourself before you get serious about a guy who only sees you as a short-term fling, or about a girl. Test the notion of sex work. What is this person's relative level of openness to the concept? Do they think of it as a legitimate profession, or are they just totally disgusted? When I'm in the getting to know you phase of dating a guy, I'll usually drop in at some appropriate time the notion of sex work to try and get some gauge of what they think. Now, I might do this as a joke or as part of a story, or even ask outright as an intellectual topic, if that seems appropriate. It's not in any way a guarantee of how they're going to respond if you do the big reveal. But if their response is to tell you that they're strictly religious and they think all sex workers are dirty whores, then you've probably not met your soulmate. 5. Do some digging into former relationship history. Has this person had a traumatic relationship history? Is there anything that could be a red flag for you and how they may handle the information you have to share? Now, women are curious, digging creatures anyway, so we almost always do this. However, I will try to get some feel for my potential partner's romantic background. I once dated a guy who seemed like a potential until he told me about his serial cheating ex-girlfriend and how much it hurt him and how he had major trust issues since then. I could have been too harsh in my analysis, however, I didn't feel that a background of trust issues was the best place for me to try and start a relationship where, as a sex worker, trust is a huge part of the equation, especially when it comes to a partner needing to trust that I'm doing right by them when I'm alone with my clients and they have no idea what's really going on. Okay, when to tell. If you've decided you're going to tell this potential partner, timing is important. So let's talk about that now. 1. After all of the how questions have been satisfied, make sure you've got a complete picture of this situation by satisfying all of our previous points. 2. Generally not as an upfront piece of information, i.e. not on your Tinder profile blurb, if you're looking for a serious relationship and to maximize the chances of finding a potential partner. Again, this may seem unfair. In fact, this whole thing can seem unfair. But the stigma associated with what we do means it's in your best interest to act cautiously and thoughtfully. If you put this on your Tinder profile, which I have known girls to do, you'll get a larger proportion of negative responses that don't align with serious relationship prospects. There are actually more people than you think who may consider dating you when presented with the information in the right way. And that's usually after they've had some time to get to know you. 3. Before you have become too emotionally attached to the person, i.e. the idea of losing them is more painful than the idea of being turned down. This is why telling possible partners sooner rather than later is important. Once you've been dating someone for a while and you start to like them, you'll become attached and invest in them emotionally, which makes the prospect of losing them harder to bear. Yes, of course you want to like them, but you don't want to like them so much that you start to feel losing them above creating the relationship you're looking for. So don't wait till 6 months in. 4. Tell them before you have sex with them. Emotional bonding tends to intensify after this occurs, especially for women, though for men too. Note, being sexually conservative at first can be a benefit to you depending on this person's current education and opinion of sex workers. Generally, I recommend waiting to have sex with someone after you've told them. This might seem like an outdated concept in the day of the modern woman, but I stand by this strongly regardless. If you're dating a guy and you like him, then you have sex with him, this will probably intensify your feelings past the point of what we just discussed, as well as color your judgment. It can do the same thing for them too, which makes a possible feeling of betrayal after you've told them an even greater issue. They've bonded more deeply to you too, and now you're revealing something to them they weren't aware of. And lastly, on this point, again, it may seem unfair, but drawing the line between your job as a sex worker and your personal sex life is important. Many people have opinions about sex workers being promiscuous hoes who just can't get enough. And if you're looking for a serious relationship, then not being put in this category is a good way to start. Also, a man's willingness to wait to have sex with you is one possible sign of his seriousness about a relationship. 5. Before you or they make introductions to any friends or family. Because if the talk doesn't go well, there are now more potential people involved, and meeting friends and family generally means a more serious level of relationship, at which point you should have already told them if you're going to tell them at all. 6. After you have had a reasonable time to get to know them. One date and one phone call does not usually count as a reasonable amount of time. You need time to assess their character. You need time to be sure this could be serious for both of you. Sometimes, but not too much time, is necessary for all of the above. 7. Generally, 2 to 3 dates in, or 2 to 3 weeks of conversation is a good amount of time. The less lies you can avoid having to tell, the better. When you do tell this person, there will be some level of an immediate feeling of betrayal, and the less lies you have to unpick for them, the better. Even when I told my current boyfriend 2 dates in, he told me he had already begun to form a picture of who I was and how we might fit together. When I told him I was actually an escort, that popped that whole picture and he had to start over. Even when I was honest so soon, he told me he actually had some feelings of betrayal and concern that I wasn't who I had portrayed myself to be. Your potential partner will begin to invest in that idea, just as you invest in the person you believe them to be. So the less unpicking they have to do, the easier it will be for you both to move onwards and upwards, hopefully together. What to say when you tell. If you've gotten to the point where you've decided you want to tell this potential partner, then you need to be prepared with exactly what to tell them. So 1, tell the whole truth as it stands. Half-truths are still lies. If you're going to be honest at all, you may as well be all the way honest. Let your partner decide upfront and in advance if a deeper relationship that they are willing to go forward with is with you. If you provide natural oral, don't lie and say that you don't. It will come out in the future, and you can save yourself both a lot of heartache if you get it all out in the beginning and go forward together on mutually agreed upon terms. 2, practice what you want to say. You will be nervous. I was a nervous mess the first time I did this, and I realized just before the guy was about to turn up that I had never actually even said the words out loud, I am a professional escort, or I am an escort, or any version of that sentence. So you'll be smoother and communicate what you really want to say properly if you practice. 3, do not pose what you do as if it's up for discussion unless it really is, and if it is, be very clear to yourself on what that really means. If this is your occupation for the indefinite future, and you don't have any intention of changing professions, don't start your relationship with, this is just for now and I can get another job at any time. This will only lead to false impressions about what your partner is getting involved with, which will lead to problems in the future, such as pressuring you to quit, which you probably don't want. I know it's tempting because you probably think that that's what they will want to hear. But this isn't about selling someone a false image of who you are. It's actually not really about them. It's about you finding the relationship you deserve and finding a compatible partner to build a loving future with. You can only do that when you're your honest self. 4, select your words carefully. Perception is important. I am a prostitute is not the best way to start. Words have power over people. Again, unfair though it may seem, words carry stigma, and stigma is the biggest battle you're facing in this scenario. You will probably have to unpick some serious stereotypical untruths, and using language that feeds into that doesn't help your cause. 5, humanize why you have chosen to take this path. What do you want to achieve? What are your goals? And what does this job mean to you? Again, remind your partner of who you are outside of this job. Take away that big bad stigma of sex work and replace it with all the positive things you get from it. 6, give them the choice to walk away. Be sincere and let them do so without judgment. It's okay that this isn't for them. They're just not the right person for you. Pressuring someone out of guilt to be with you isn't the kind of relationship you want. And no one likes being pressured anyway. I bet you don't. So genuinely tell this person that there are no hard feelings if they want to walk away now. It will also decrease the chances of them doing anything to harm you out of spite or anger over the situation. Alright, we've covered everything you need to know about telling a partner and exactly how and what to say, and when. Now let's talk about the other side of the story. What's life like when you don't tell them? Firstly, the pros. Immediate risk of being outed is avoided, though long-term risk is greater. So you get to avoid the big bad talk, and you also avoid them immediately outing you if it doesn't go well. Though if they find out along the line when you already have a relationship, the chances of them outing you now or it getting out is greatly increased. So I would say that this is short-term gain but long-term pain. Learn to cultivate and rely on support systems outside your partner. Many girls I've known who have kept this from their partners tended to, by proxy, have great support systems outside their relationships, which I always thought was incredibly healthy and empowering, especially if the relationship breaks up for any reason. They generally didn't because they couldn't, I suppose, put all their eggs in the relationship basket. Free to work with no interference from a partner, though less free in other ways. Sometimes when a partner knows about your job, they will try to impose restrictions of their own. Perhaps there are things they don't like or feel comfortable with you doing at work, or there could be clients they don't want you to see or places they don't want you to go. This is certainly avoided when they just don't know at all. Potential pool of partners not limited by having to have the talk. You definitely get to enjoy a larger dating pool when you don't reveal to unknowing suspects that you're actually a sex worker. Totally avoid the stressful and anxiety-inducing coming out talk. This conversation is stressful and confronting, so avoiding it can be much easier. However, again, I would place this in the short-term gain, long-term pain category. And true growth is only achieved by being pushed outside of your comfort zone and trying to do difficult things. Avoid all ongoing sex work-related relationship issues. Again, if your partner isn't truly accepting of what you do, it will come up again and again and again. I would definitely love to avoid that, and choosing this option allows you to do so. And to the cons. Constant anxiety and fear that your partner could find out somehow at any time forever. This literally never goes away. You might have worked 2 years ago, but that doesn't matter. It could still come out at any time. Practical implications of living a double life. You have a second phone. Where do you store your stuff? Always monitoring your phone, being worried that you're caught somewhere that you shouldn't be. Aside from all the emotional complications, there are genuine practical implications you'll need to contend with, though you can come up with ways around most of them. If they do find out, a horrible end to the relationship is usually in store, hurt on both sides and getting outed, etc., etc. If you do get caught, your partner isn't the only one who suffers. You'll probably lose the relationship because this is a very difficult thing to come back from. I've seen a number of close friends go through this, and it's nothing short of traumatic and heartbreaking, even being on the outside. Sometimes friends get taken along for the ride too. It's probable you'll also get outed if the partner finds out you're a worker too, and he feels particularly bitter about being the only clueless party in your group. Ethical conflicts around sexual health, monogamy, lying, and deceit are impossible to avoid. So we covered this in our last pros and cons list. If you're lying, these ethical conflicts will be totally unavoidable all the time, and you're not going to feel good about it. A guilty conscience is also a really heavy burden to live with. Unable to create a relationship based on total honesty and trust compromises the quality of your relationship forever. So again, you might quit and stop working, but the fact that you are doing sex work behind your partner's back never goes away. And unable to confide in and turn to your partner when you truly need it. If you've had a bad day at work, or God forbid, a really awful, horrible bad day, you better get good at hiding that from your partner. This kind of divide puts a wall between you and your partner, and that truly close, intimate relationship just can't be attained with a giant wall between you. Alright, I've included this because I think it's important that you understand the why behind why you don't feel you can have a relationship as a sex worker. The truth is, you're probably wrong. However, you need to challenge that belief and get to the core of why it exists on your own. So we're going to talk about the self-limiting belief behind why you don't want to tell a partner you're a sex worker. This is an exercise you can do that will help you to begin to understand your own mind. At the root of your belief that you can't have a relationship as a sex worker is a fear that you have come to believe. Firstly, you need to recognize and understand very clearly what those are. So what you're going to do here is to fill in the blanks. If I tell potential partners I'm a sex worker, I will never be accepted and loved. Or for you, it might be, I will be outed to my family. I will never have a healthy relationship. I will be forced to quit my job. I will be forced to give up my financial security. These are just some of the many things that I've sometimes had myself or heard from others. So just write down whatever you think of straight away. Try not to edit your own thoughts. Your unedited feelings are generally the truth, and they're the demons you don't want to face, but that you must face. Then, for every limiting belief you state, challenge it, flip it, and let yourself see another truth. For instance, I will never be accepted and loved could become, if you let it, I will finally be seen for who I really am. Or another one could become, I will create a relationship based on mutual honesty and trust. For every limiting belief you state, challenge and reprogram your brain with an opposing statement. Now, the next thing you want to do is to look for proof outside of yourself, because you probably don't have it within yourself yet. Actively look for evidence that what you want to believe is realistic and possible by seeking out others who have achieved what you want to achieve. So you need to band together with other successfully reprogrammed individuals. Success leaves clues, and it's all around you when you choose to see it. So go to forums like Reddit and groups on Facebook and start talking to other sex workers who are currently in relationships with people who know. Then create networks with those like-minded individuals. And go out of your way to become friends with other sex workers, hopefully who have already reprogrammed their mind, who can help you do it too. So we will go into detail another day about how to reprogram your belief systems on any topic. But for today, I just want you to get some practice in how to recognize and challenge the ones you currently have. The do's and don'ts of not telling. Many workers decide to not tell their potential partners and their current partners that they are working. I've worked with and been friends with many people who have chosen this path, and from what I've seen, there are some vital principles that are followed by the ones who choose to conceal it and who do so successfully. So to maximize your chances of not having to go through the hardship of being found out, I'm going to share with you some crucial do's and don'ts that will help you do this. So on the do's list, 1. Have an ironclad work cover story from day one and back it up with action. What I mean by back it up with action is that you should actually take steps to give some proof or believability to your story. So don't say you work a 9 to 5, but then are constantly not at work. I actually worked with a girl who said she had a 9 to 5 when she didn't, and she lived with a housemate. So she would wake up every day and be sure to leave her place as if she was going to work, and then came home at the appropriate time. She could have slept in every day, but she didn't because she had a story to protect, and up until now it's worked. I also recommend basing your story as far in reality as possible. So making up an entirely fake company that you work for with entirely fake offices that you go to is generally not the smartest way to go. 2. Have a network of people who know about your job that you can turn to for support and who can also vouch for you. This has its pros and cons, as obviously the more people who know, the more people can talk. However, this is where fellow working friends who understand the importance of privacy and who probably have the same secret to protect comes in handy. Not only can they be there to help you through the rough times that your partner won't know about, not only can they be there to just talk to you about the mundane, everyday trivia of your working life, but they can also act as backup for your stories and provide covers for you when you need it. 3. Make a habit of not being on your phone 24/7 and being immediately contactable all the time. You want your partner to think it's totally normal that you are sometimes unreachable. We all live on our phones these days, but you can't appear to do that. When you're in a booking, you won't be texting your partner. You need for it to not be suspicious that you aren't answering your phone. So make this apparent from day one. And this can actually help your dating life anyway, because many of us fall prey to being too available in the dating phase of relationships, which is generally not very attractive. 4. Screen your clients very carefully. Your apartment should have a camera, and you need a full name that is verifiable or photo ID for outcalls. We will go into depth about adequately screening clients in another lesson. However, for today, just take this away. Your partner's network of people in the city you work in will determine how vigilant you need to be with this. You do not want to open the door to his best friend or his father, so screen your clients. If you're working from an apartment, a camera on the door is just the safest option. I use the Ring doorbell, you can look it up. It's only $100 and it can be taken anywhere and it's super easy to use. And 5, have a way to handle client inquiries when you aren't contactable to minimize missing work. If you can only be with your phone at certain times of the day, let your clients know by writing it on your profile. This maximizes your professionalism within your personal parameters. Otherwise, get an assistant or put an autoresponder on your phone. There are many ways around it. And as for the don'ts, 1, don't have any association whatsoever to the sex industry. Do not allude to stripping, sugar daddies, paid companionship, topless waitressing. Any association will just lead to question marks. Many girls try to test the waters with their already partners by telling them that they've done one or the above, or they use it as an explanation for some unexplainable behavior related to their job. You are really better off eliminating the questionable behavior or just hiding it some other way, rather than giving your partner any inkling at all that you've been involved in sex work. As soon as that concept is raised, any suspicious behavior on your part that could otherwise be explained in other ways can and probably will lead to your partner wondering if you're involved in that thing again, or over time, depending on the person, it could even fester and grow to them thinking the worst, which is the truth. Lives leave clues no matter how vigilant you are, and when they come up, the last thing you want is for your partner to already have the idea of sex work on their mind. So ideally, never allude to it at all. 2, don't have questionable material on social media, such as your latest Gucci purse when you supposedly have a barista wage, photos of you in a hotel room on a Tuesday night. Unexplainable wealth and lifestyle oddities raises questions, so just keep your social media private. I know the modern world is all about social media appearances. You can't afford this unnecessary luxury if you have a secret to conceal, so just don't do it, unless of course you have a very good alternative explanation for that behavior. 3, don't have multiple work stories for different people. Pick one story for everyone. You will get caught in a web of lies and people always talk more than you think, so pick one thing and stick to it no matter what. 4, don't leave any work material on your phone, computer, or in your home. You just never know when someone will go through your things, or if they'll just be innocently looking for something else and come across it. So figure out a way to store all this stuff safely. 5, don't send photos of any kind that have identifiable features. So don't send selfies wearing the same bracelet that you wear every day. Don't do photo shoots in the lingerie you wear for your partner. And otherwise, just be super smart about what it is you put online or send to random people that you don't know. Because once it's out there, anyone and everyone has access to it, and you want to minimize the potential for risk at all costs. So that wraps up this week's lesson about sex work and dating. These are murky waters to figure out. So as always, think carefully about what you want for your life. Plan and take informed action. Knowledge is power, so I hope this has helped you in some way. And regardless of what path you choose to take, I wish you every success. As always, I'm Isabelle Fox. I would love any thoughts or feedbacks you have on today's lesson, and I would love to hear from you.